This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
In this episode, I sit down with Will, a man whose journey is as raw as it gets. His past is marked by years of alcohol addiction, dealing drugs, and living in constant chaos. He's been through the terrifying experience of having his house raided, has survived multiple suicide attempts, and knows firsthand what it's like to lose hope entirely. But today, Will is in a very different place. With less than a month of sobriety, he's already turning his life around, embracing recovery with the hunger to live, and showing that even in the earliest, most fragile days of getting clean, incredible change can begin to happen. His story is proof that rock bottom doesn't have to be the end. It can be the start of something powerful. Let's get into it.
Hi, my name is Will, and I'm from a small town in northwestern British Columbia.
What is your drink or drug of choice?
Drug of choice was alcohol for 13 years.
When did you first start using drugs or alcohol, and what drew you to it?
I started using drugs around the age of, must have been 14 or 15. And I think that was more or less a rebellious phase in my life. And then I had some levels of trauma between the ages of 17 and 18, which brought me over to alcohol because it's the easiest thing you can find, and it's largely the most accepted.
So when it started around that age, can you kind of take us through how it slowly escalated into becoming a problem?
I think it started off with marijuana, of course, in high school, and then it escalated further. A lot of people like to say that it is a gateway drug, and others will obviously counter that argument, but for me, it definitely was. It was always about getting higher, trying to find another peak, if you will. I think that's a fairly common practice. And then some very difficult medical issues happened in my family when I was at a very young age, 17. And that escalated my drug use to the point of selling drugs, the harder ones, which escalated it to having a home invasion done on myself and others that I lived with at the time. And from there, I had moved to a province with a lower drinking age where the alcohol was then readily available.
Can you go into more detail about what happened and took place during the home invasion?
The home invasion was pretty interesting. It was like 4 a.m. I was just getting home from a party. I had dropped off all my friends and made it back to my house. And within about 10 minutes of me sitting on the couch, a group of guys had came up through the staircase armed with weapons, obviously, knives, guns, and there was a knife thrown to my throat. And I was tied up next to my roommate. They went ahead and ransacked the house. After that, I was on the floor. And after being on the floor, I tied up next to, of course, my roommate. I ended up getting up when they had left, locked the deadbolt, and then came back to untie my roommate with my teeth.
It's pretty intense.
Saying it out loud is a bit different, but for me, it's just something you have to live with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so how long ago was that exactly?
Exactly. Well, I was about 14 years now.
14 years. Okay, so after that took place, what happened with your drinking and drug use? Did it get you into any legal trouble, or?
It didn't get me into legal trouble immediately. No, I ended up moving provinces, again, where it was a earlier drinking age. I was only 18 at the time. And my friend and I, who I had moved out there with, we'd be drinking about a 2-6 every night between the ages of 18 to must have been 22, 23, that kind of area. Where he went back to school and I ended up going back to school, but the alcohol followed me back to my home province. And I went to a pretty decent school. I took a very, very high level major, engineering.
Wow, that's impressive. So you're a mathematician and all that?
I am an engineering technologist, so I'm not nearly that good, but that's where I ended up, continuously drinking. And then there was a point in my life where I'm like, well, it was the pandemic. And the pandemic is when the world shut down. So all I had was just sit at home all day and, well, get hammered. Because, well, what else are you going to do? So at that point in my life, only a few years ago now, I was drinking up to a 40 every day.
For those who want to understand the terminology better, a Mickey is 375 milliliters, comparable to a half pint. A 2.6 is 750 milliliters, comparable to a fifth. A 40 is 1.14 liters, and a 60 is 1.75, which is a half gallon.
If I saw I had half a 40 at 9 o'clock, I'd utilize skip the dishes to bring me another one. Yes, I couldn't be left with less than half of a 40 per night. And that was the first real rock bottom that I had hit. Because at that point during that time, I had also been pulled over for the drunk driving. Yes, I spent some time in jail, the 10 hours that they keep you for. And I had also gone to the hospital for other reasons. And after I had done all that, and then I was simply just drinking my weight in vodka every single night.
So you were drinking whiskey and then changed it up to vodka. So was that a big difference in how it affected your life?
Correct. With vodka, there's less congeners in the actual liquid itself, so you don't get as hungover as the next day. It's a fact. So you could be drinking a lot more of that. Plus, you can mix it with water endlessly, no longer requiring a need for chase, as you would say a darker or a bitter alcohol.
Very true. I used to mix vodka with Gatorade, no problem, and not even taste the vodka.
Exactly right. It's very easy to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So can you describe what like a day during that period was like, a 24-hour period?
Sure thing. In that 24-hour period on a standard day, we're not talking about weaning down. We're not trying to like endlessly quit or anything. It would be up at 8 o'clock in the morning. By 8:05 to 8:20 would at least be first shot. I need at least 4 shots of vodka before 9 o'clock. After 9 o'clock, you may or may not shower, but you will be continuing drinking regardless. You wouldn't be taking shots in the shower, but then 12 o'clock would run around, and eventually you would have to continue drinking. And by the time 1 or 2 o'clock rolled around, you'd be back in bed because you're passed out effectively. Up at 7 or 8 at night, then you keep drinking. And then keep drinking to the point upon passing out, you might have had something to eat. And then you're up again at 3 or 4 in the morning, and you're back to drinking, and you're playing video games, and you're doing all this and that again. And that would continue for months.
And were you working or in school during this time, or you had already graduated?
I, at that time, was continuing to do the Zoom school because I was trying to advance my major. But at that point, the alcohol had taken over, and Zoom school, I think, lost a lot of integrity for a lot of people who had been going, because it has its own issues and could get into. I think I've written about it. But the cheating was rampant. Nothing of that felt real, so I just kept drinking.
Okay. So being in Zoom school, not being required to go out and, check into class or clock in at a day job, it definitely gave you more of a green light to drink.
Bingo. I had nothing but free time, right? I think anybody afflicted with alcohol misuse or alcohol disorder find themselves in that position quite frequently. Namely, they'll quit school because the alcohol was there, but they'll also lose jobs constantly, and then they'll go on weeks or month benders. I, at that time, was on a 3 or 4 month. I can't remember exactly. That would be a normal situation for me, and that happened more than once.
How many times would you say that you had benders that lasted that long?
4 times at least.
Did many of them result you being in the hospital?
Twice, yes, and went to jail twice as well. Hospitalized for extreme. I self-admitted. I went in because I thought my heart was racing to the point where it's like, hey, I need to get like an ECG or something. So I had gone to the hospital, and no, we were fine. They gave me some sort of saline drip and kind of just let me lay there for a while. Then they moved me over to the psych ward, and that sucked too. And the second time they put me to the psych ward, they put me in one of those padded room ideas.
Yeah,
It's a
they did the
crazy
same thing
time.
to me too, and had me in practically a straitjacket, my arm strapped down or whatever. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
really humbling to say the least.
Oh, you definitely learn your place in the world, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So when you got arrested, were they only DUI related, or was it something you did while drinking?
Only DUI related.
So you have a
Yeah.
couple of the DUIs then?
Uh, One I got away with, interestingly enough, I forget exactly how. And the second one was just straight up. The cops pulled me over and straight up. They're like, oh, have people who called from this bar. I just walked to the back of the cop car. That was the end of it. No fighting, nothing like that. I just knew I was caught.
Yeah, that's what happened to me on my birthday 2 years ago. I convinced everybody I was okay to drive home, which clearly I wasn't. I only lived 3 blocks away, and as soon as I pulled out of the bar parking lot, cops right behind me, and I didn't even fight it. As soon as I rolled down the window, he just looked at me, and I'm like, "Yep, okay, I'll just get out of the car."
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no need to fight at that point. You're not gonna win for one.
yeah. Ended up blowing a .34. Do you remember what you blew?
I didn't blow actually. I refused breathalyzer.
Did they give you further consequences for that?
Consequence for that was 3 months suspended license and impound a car for 3 days. And then you had to
Um,
do like this course on how you'll never drink and drive again. And I did it. You just go
okay.
to this course, which is, I guess, in a sense, meetings in itself, but they also end up charging you like 2,000 or 3,000 bucks to do it. So there's fines on top of it. It's just not worth it.
And probation.
Yeah. And then you wait, what, 30 days for your car to get back, so you're not paying. It spirals out of control, whereas it's 30 bucks for a cab would have saved me a lot of time and energy.
Oh yeah, domino effect of problems for that lasts a year or two, and it's just not worth the time, energy, and money.
No.
So during that period of, say, one of your rough benders, were you spending most of the time drinking alone, or were you out socializing at bars a lot of the time too?
I would never drink with anybody else. I don't know if that was more or less a shield to keep people thinking that I didn't drink, but when I get home, I'd be absolutely fucking toasted within like an hour. From then on, I'm like, man, I am at absolute breaking point here. I've got to clean myself up. So what I did was I went ahead and tapered to quit, and I tapered and tapered and tapered. And that was the first time I'd experienced DTs. And DTs are absolutely no joke. You would get people, like apparitions, I should say, that open the door and start screaming in your ear, and then you're just absolutely paranoid about everything at all given times. You're still trying to figure out this, that, and the other thing. You're looking at the top of your top of the ceiling, or sorry, you're looking at the ceiling, and things are moving, and you understand. The only thing you really know in that situation is where your alcohol is at and how much you need to drink to make them go away. So when you went ahead and you kept tapering, then you get freaked out by these things. And then next thing you know, you taper to the point it's like, okay, I'm good with maybe just a Mickey in a night. And then you do that for X amount of time. And then it also starts snowballing again. And I'm like, well, shit. I didn't actually achieve anything. And at that time, I think I was working in healthcare, ironically enough. And trying to convince people, specifically that of other alcoholics, about their sleep habits and patterns and how it's effectively ruining their life. And then I go home and get hammered. I do that job for very, very long. But I've kept moving. Before I was working in healthcare, I had effectively left school for maybe a year, just continuously drinking, and I had joined our military. It turns out what you do primarily in our armed forces is drink. Thankfully, I had not signed a contract, and I was able to effectively leave said military such that I could then continue on drinking. I did that for months. and months. And then I got the job in healthcare and continued drinking, and I left that. So I started working in where I started. I started working in research and development, and I did that effectively for 2 years. But at that point, I had been able to wean myself down to having 2 to 8 beers per night, and I was super proud of myself. And I had done that for, again, 2 years. But then it started to escalate again once I had switched to this other job where I'm working effectively corporate finance. And I don't know what the hell hit me, but I would be drinking the 2 beers, the 4 beers, the 6 beers, the 8, and then I'm like, oh crap, because I had 30 beers in one day, and then 30 beers the next day, and 30 beers again. And my fiance just looking at me like I'm a fucking mess, because at that time I actually was. And I guess I had said some things that I can't actually remember, and it pissed off her. And I was like, okay, yeah, today's the fucking day. Today's the day we're quitting. That's it.
So your fiance was around pretty much all this during most of your benders then?
No, she only witnessed 2.
Oh, okay. So what did if she was able to describe it to you after, what did she say your behavior was like? Were you hiding bottles and doing all those kind of things?
No, I wasn't hiding at all. We share a house already and that, so everything was right in the open. She said, what you were doing was not you. And that, I think, hit me the most, because I'm like, you're right, it's not. It's this freaking plague that we have over us, and it is an addiction. Like, it's a medically described disease. There's some people who are thankfully not afflicted by it and can continue their lives doing however it is they do just perfectly fine. But that really affected me, because we also had a long conversation. It's like, well, we have this entire future plan together, and you can't be there doing that and saying things like whatever it was. If you're drinking, you can't do that. And that hit me to the point where it's like, hey, here's my new tapering schedule. I'm going to do 10 tonight. It'll be 5 tomorrow. It'll be 3. And I did the 10 the first night, and the very next day, I'm like, I'm going to urgent care. Screw this. I'm going to go get medically detox. And I've successfully done that.
So when you cut down, you started feeling the symptoms of DTs and just didn't want to go through that kind of hell again?
This time I didn't feel DTs, because I had only gotten the 2 years of lighter beers, raise the 5%. It's really the 40 and the 50% that'll start getting you, I think. Maybe not for others. But I didn't really experience DTs. I had a lot of shaking, it's just tremors. But then I started feeling that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm never picking up a can ever again. So I was issued diazepam for a 10-day weaning cycle, completed that, and this is 14 days sober for me.
Today is 14 days sober. Congratulations. I mean, the first 30 days is clearly the most difficult for everyone. So
it's an adjustment.
What kind of adjustment has it felt like? How has it been progressing the last 14 days? Can I take me back to day one and up until now?
Day one was the first day that I started taking diazepam, and I felt absolutely no cravings or no cravings. I had no symptoms, if you will. I had nothing. It was completely fine. I was in a great mood because I was on 4 hits of Valium that day, so I guess that's probably why. The first day was fine, and the weaning period went on and on and on. I still felt fine. And then I started talking to my doctor, and then we got me on to anti-anxieties, and I've been utilizing the anti-anxieties as well as other things such as hanging out, telling my peer group that, hey, I'm never touching alcohol ever again, and this is what we do. So we've been going on hikes. It was date night every night with my fiance and I, and we've been doing very, very, very well. Otherwise, I'm excelling at work. It got really good surprisingly quick.
That is amazing. So in 2 weeks, you've already felt noticeable transformation.
Noticeable. I get tired naturally now, which is wildly different.
Yeah, sleep is actually real now.
Yeah, it's pretty
a good feeling, and you wake up not hungover. I mean, it's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, it's a nice trade-off, and then you realize you didn't spend $50.
Exactly. The money saved is one of my favorite parts. I'm like, oh, I can finally buy these things now without stressing because I'm not putting $100 a night into alcohol.
Bingo.
That's so true, though. I wouldn't have this studio if I hadn't been sober for almost 11 months now. So,
Yeah, man,
um,
almost 1 year. Congratulations.
thank you. I appreciate that. So, can you tell me a little bit about you mentioned anxiety, and that's one of the subjects that I find really important because I suffered from severe anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder growing up, and probably still have it to this day, but I am on a prescribed medication now.
Mhm.
But what was your experience, growing up? Did you have anxiety and depression or just anxiety? And how did that lead to your drinking, or did it have a role in that?
But I was never diagnosed with anything growing up, ever. I think it's because my parents were maybe older and it wasn't necessarily a big factor in their lives. Because even speaking to them nowadays, it's like, yeah, there wasn't any, on their record, there wasn't anything like ADHD or depression or anything like that. Like the mental health was very, very taboo or was not spoken about. I didn't really learn about that until I had gone back to school in my 20s that, hell, maybe I should probably go get looked at. And I was diagnosed with anxiety fueled depression or something of that nature. Like my depression is caused by anxiety. But as a kid, I guess people remember me as being very angry or distant or cold, things of that nature. And
Like non-emotional?
yeah, things like that.
What was your childhood like growing up? Was there any dysfunction in the family? Were there any traumas you experienced or things that pain you were trying to numb with drinking as opposed to just, boredom or free time or just trying to, do
I can
something
an-
during the day?
I can definitely answer that. I think before the time I turned 10, everything was normal. Granted, I was under the age of 10, so what is normal? But it wasn't until my dad got promoted and he was a high functioning alcoholic. Like this man would also drink a 2-6 every single night with my mother and go to work every day like nothing. And he did that solid for 5 years and he was making pretty decent cash doing what he did. But he'd come home and he'd always be drunk as well to the point, and he'd always be mad at my brother for smoking weed. I have an older brother. He's a couple years older than me. He'd smoke weed, and my dad caught him one night and threw him up against the wall. Remember that? And kicked him out of the house that night. And what happened to my brother is a different story in itself. He still has his own issues. But a couple years after that, my father had then had a stroke. And that was about 15 years ago. So it all kind of compiled all at once. So then the father has a stroke, I get robbed, and then adulthood.
Those are some pretty intense traumas, losing your father, watching him, go through alcoholism and then watching him have a stroke. I mean, that's really tough.
But he's still alive to this day. So
Is he still a big drinker or is he recovering?
massive,
Massive drinker? Okay.
huge drinker. He's never going to change. But even after watching this growing up, I still ended up becoming like that. And I'm like, fuck, I am the sin to my father, or am I not?
I grew up around alcoholism as well, and it was something that I told myself. I'm like, oh, I tried tasting it as a kid. I'm like, this is gross. I'll never do this. And I
Mhm.
see adults walking around sloshed, and I'm like, no, that'll never be me. And then, of course, the second I get out of high school and going to college and have all this freedom, I just went, balls to the
Yep.
wall. No
Yep, I
stopping me.
hear you, man. We both grew up in a very normalized house with this kind of behavior, which is
Yeah,
something I cannot, for the life of me, bring to the next generation because my wife, or my fiance, and I, we want to have kids and we cannot have that sort of action go forward. But it was
exactly.
completely normal for my parents' generation to do that. I mean, I don't blame them. I can't blame them for their actions. I can only blame them, mine, for my own, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know while we're growing up and developing, I know all of that stuff affects us and we don't realize it, but we do make our own decisions later in life. So,
It only took me until my 30s. But yeah.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's better. That's better than a lot of people. I see a lot of people at meetings, still trying to quit in their 60s and 70s. And even that's not too late because they're still here. So,
Fair enough. I mean, you can always
yeah.
turn your stuff around as much as you like. And I think I get that from a lot of my followers, how we met. Like, I post on Reddit daily and shout out to all the people who watch me because I'm probably going to mention this in my next piece that comes out tonight. I mean, there's so many people in this community who are just trying to be heard and get over all this stuff. And it's shocking how well ingrained it is to people who are older and extremely young.
It's everywhere. And that's what I'm really liking about, I'm fairly new to social media. Surprisingly, I've been only really into social media since I started this podcast. And I am so impressed by how many people of all ages and backgrounds are spreading the awareness of recovery and sobriety. And it's actually seeming to become popular and something people are open to talking about.
Yeah, it's legitimately a disease. I'll take fault for all the stuff that I did while I was drinking, but it's not going to be me in the next 40 years. It's not going to be me in the next 40 days. You can change. Everybody can.
Exactly. I mean, you've already made a huge change in 2 weeks, and that's really impressive.
That's actually, I didn't think I would ever be sober for over a week.
Yeah, that within itself was an accomplishment. I mean, I told myself every time I went to the hospital and was going through DTs and not even able to hold a cup up to my mouth to sip water, I was like always thinking, okay, well, once I feel better, I can probably drink, but I can control it next time. I know, and just get worse.
Yep, I lied to myself like that quite frequently.
Yeah, it's unbelievably the lies we told to ourselves.
It's amazing how I'm not sure if you had any outside intervention or anything like that, but I never did.
Majority of my friends that I surrounded myself with were drinkers, so I was never going to get intervened from them. But there were people in my life, if I was seeing somebody relationship wise, that would, eventually call me out and I would try to slow down. But in the end, I would still be selfish in my addiction and just do it anyways.
Same river, different boat, my guy. I lost plenty of closer relationships because of that. The point of near isolation, or again, because pandemic actually made that really easy.
Yeah.
I lost countless jobs, like countless being, I think I have like 48 different jobs under my belt. Just be a new one every bloody week.
What's an example of losing a job or what you did? Was it like tardiness or unreliability or something you did on the job while drinking or?
Unreliability,
Okay.
100%. I would never go in if I was drinking. I wouldn't drive.
So you'd
Yeah.
call in sick or make an excuse or something?
Bingo.
You seem like like you have a lot of integrity the way you talk and you come off. So it sounds like you're an honest guy, but did you catch yourself being a different version of yourself while drinking and being a lot less honest and a lot more
Conniving.
Yeah.
Quite frequently. The thing is, you are a different person when you're drinking, especially when you're drinking to a heavy, heavy level. Like, I think both of us were, and I think like the majority of us do. It's like, oh, I only had 6 shots today. I can go drive. Or you go ahead and you check the app and be like, what's my BAC level right now? And I can just drive to the McDonald's or I can drive to the liquor store or this, that, and the other thing. And I would definitely do that. Except when it came down to work, I would never go to work drunk. I don't know what complex that is. But
I mean that's definitely better than going to work drunk. So.
I mean, fair enough. The big job that I lost when I was doing that, I was a robotics technician in town, and I would continuously call in for just stupid reasons. I was sick for like 6 days, or my car's not working, or this, that, other thing. Like, you're lying, but at the same time, you're ordering more booze in. And it's still at that point didn't convince myself that I knew I had a problem, but convince myself that this was just going to be how it is.
Yeah, you're hoping to keep the job and hoping they would kind of wait around until you recovered from that bender or hangover and then go back to work and try to get back on track. But usually they would just kind of give up after a while, I would assume.
Yeah, they just stopped scheduling me.
Yeah, I went through that with many jobs.
Mm-hmm. They just say, screw it, I'll just find another one.
So a lot of your time was spent, making excuses to get out of work, and it caused firings. Did it affect a lot of your friendships and all that? I mean, you said you didn't have any direct interventions, but how are your relationships with your family and friends during these periods?
Um, at that point, my mother had caught on to something going on. By that, I mean screaming and things of that nature. She was pissed. She's still with me today because she's my mother. She's also quit drinking at this point, and smoking. She's quite an amazing role model to have in my life. My father also noticed the problem, but he's also shit faced at all points at times. All
So
my friends from university, I have no contact with because I was always hammered. No, that's was like pure isolation. All my friends from high school at some point left, but I think that one is more normal because people grow apart.
so can you tell me a little bit more about anything else that was going on when you were drinking, things going through your head besides anxiety? Any other reasons besides boredom and killing time and something to do that was causing you to drink more
I
and more?
was think I was trying to kill myself, honestly.
You had suicidal ideation from
Yeah,
drinking.
I was in the hospital twice for two attempted suicides. Once via hanging, which it didn't work out. Didn't it's actually really hard to do that. And the other one where I took an axe to my arm, but it was the world's most dull axe, so I didn't cut even through the first layer of skin. I just kept hitting it, and the police showed up that day, and I was detained for my own safety. And I think I honestly was trying to off myself at that point in my life.
Can I ask why you were thinking in such a dark place at that time besides drinking? Like, I know drinking takes our minds to darker places, but do you know what was going through your head that led up to that?
I honestly believe it was solely based on the drinking, because if you think of alcohol, it's a depressant, right? And you continuously do that to the point where you're drinking the white lightning. The white lightning was a bad time. That's the 50%, the 100 proof, whatever you want to call it. And that stuff, I was having such severe DTs at that point, even when I was drinking. It works a lot like absinthe, where you start to hallucinate, and then I wanted the hallucinations to stop. I wanted to sleep because I don't believe I had a real sleep in like maybe a month and a half at that point.
Please. So your brain was basically fried at that point.
Cooked, absolutely cooked. I had alcoholic neuropathy. I'm sure others have it too, where it's like you get the numbness in your limbs, my legs specifically. And I'm fairly certain I was on the bed for so long that I was atrophying.
Well, just depression led because you weren't functioning physically or mentally. So your frustration just built up to the point where you're like, I want to end this.
I think that is a valid analysis.
I've had my dark moments as well. I apologize to bring you to those dark memories back of attempted suicide, but I mean, I do find that interesting because in my opinion, I would consider those my rock bottoms when suicidal thoughts come into the mind, as
That's
opposed to
fair enough.
somebody intervening. So when you attempted to hang yourself, did you have any regrets as you were doing it or after you attempted it? And what was the aftermath of those?
I had nothing but regrets, but once I was released from the psychiatric department, I went home. I just drank more. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was a response to just not having it in my system for 10 hours or not filling said system for 10 hours, because that's how long they can legally allow to detain you.
So what I'm gathering is like the depression caused by the alcohol is what led you to the point of doing that. And because you were so depressed that you just kept drinking and kept feeling worse, but kept drinking to fix it and it kept getting worse.
I think so. It's the endless spiral, an infinite loop, if you will.
Oh my gosh, I hate the loop. The loop is something that I bring up in meetings. I chair meetings over here. The loop is something that I love using as a topic because it's an infamous loop and it just gets worse and worse and worse. I mean, just
Yeah.
when you think a relapse won't bring you lower, your rock bottom gets even lower.
It's amazing how you can blast through that rock too.
It's like you're grabbing a, sledgehammer and saying, "All right, take me lower."
Yep. It's like, well, I survived that one. Let's see the next pitfall.
So how long ago was that suicide attempt?
That would have been 4 years.
4 years
About
ago.
4 years
Okay.
ago now. Yep.
But since then, no thoughts of that since then?
No.
Because
From
you
there, I
kind of
had
were
taper.
drinking less after that. Yeah.
Bingo. I had taper to the point where I thought it was normal to have like 2 beers every night. And then it would just compile. I would have a big bender and I'd just trail off again. And I just keep that. The loop was getting stretched, if you will. And then when the last peak hit 3 weeks ago, that one hit, that was the last one. And I can safely say that was the last one. I have an amazing support network. I have a therapist now. My fiance's lovely. You should meet her. She's fantastic, but don't meet her too well because I love her more.
No, I believe you. I believe you. I'm glad you're happy. I mean, putting drinking for people that you love and not just yourself, but for the people you love. I mean, you see it in their eyes too, what a difference it's making. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you quit
I
for
mean,
yourself first.
yeah, you quit for yourself first, and then you see the people it was affecting. Sometimes you don't even realize how much it was affecting them until
Yeah,
after.
I think everyone around me is much happier. Like we go out and do stuff now. Like I've been started hiking with a couple of my friends. Fiance and I are going out more often, probably because of all the excess money. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, so your guys' relationships got stronger. Are you starting to I know it's still early on in your sobriety, but that's why I
Mhm.
find your story so interesting because I love figuring out how much can really change in just 2 weeks. I mean, it's really significant how much can change in 2 weeks. I mean, the sleep patterns, you wake up feeling happier, you start feeling more motivated, you start wanting to be more active. And I mean,
Speaking
what other changes are you seeing?
aside from the additional energy, and I mean, these are all fantastic. My eyesight came back. It used to be so blurry, but that started to come back, and that's all good. I mean, it's amazing. I think after the first week, after I was doing that first regiment of pills, you really start noticing the difference. And then I didn't want to have this interview because it's like, well, I don't want to be all loopy or whatever it was because I was on diazepam, my Valium. So I want to have a bit of a clearer head.
No, understandably. And you have a
Yeah.
very clear head today, it sounds like. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bit tired, but aside from that,
Yeah, no, you speak very articulately, and it seems like you're very, very well aware of everything in comparison to what you were probably feeling about a month ago. So,
oh, I was still high functioning, yeah,
because you weren't
I'm
drinking like crazy.
exactly that. I mean, I was down to the 2 to 4 beers per night. You can hold on to that schedule, you're good, but you can't hold on to that schedule. There's something in you that needs more.
So, did that ever happen where you did the 2 to 4, and then it kicked up a notch for a few weeks, and then you had to taper back down? Did that keep happening in a loop?
Constantly.
So every time I tried to limit myself to once I broke it down from whiskey, I figured, hey, if I downgrade to wine, I'm not as big of an alcoholic. So I'm just gonna do these little wine juice boxes and it has equivalent to 3 glasses in them. If I just limit to one of those a night, but then that one of those, which is 3 drinks, upgraded to 2 of those, then to 3 of those per night. And the next thing you know, I'm doing 4 or 5 of them a day. And I'm like, Jesus. And then I started buying boxes of wine. And I'm like, okay, I lost myself again.
Then you just feel bad about it. So the cycle can either do one of two things. You either do the tapering thing again or it gets worse again. And it's always going to be one or the other. It's never, I'm going to be sober tomorrow. It's never a case of that.
It's all I could think about, and I'm sure you went through the same thing, was you drink yourself until you can fall asleep. And then when you plan to wake up the next morning before doing anything else, you're looking for that drink. I mean, I had a drink before putting my contacts in because my hands were always shaky.
I always found it funny too, because the first one I'd have in the morning would always be a quarter shot because the first one in the morning would always make me puke. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to waste it.
So you got used to throwing up in the mornings, and that just became a thing, and then less eating and all that. I mean, all the problems that a bender will put on you.
Bingo. Yeah, I try to wake up in the morning, be all shaky and stuff, but I'd also just pour my little tiny shot out of vodka. Sometimes even smelling it would cause a trigger in my stomach to, release. and then you could start drinking for the rest of the day because you couldn't waste a drop. And now that I say it out loud, it's just that sad. Um,
I can completely relate. I mean, I'd freak out whenever my hiding spots got really creative and I couldn't find the drinks that I had stashed away to make sure I didn't have withdrawals because I don't want to go to the store while going through withdrawals. And I would be freaking out, scampering, tearing the house apart and stuff. And then, I'm just like looking back at it, it's pure insanity. And I'm sure you understand that.
I do. 13 years, man. I wasted 13 years of my life doing that, I'd say. And then you ever calculate roughly how much you ever spent on it? Because I did. I did a rough calculation. It was about $150,000.
Oh yeah, I would have like 4 mortgages right now if I didn't have a drinking problem.
Yeah. I'd be far more ahead in both my career and my housing circumstances if I hadn't. But I also probably would never have met my fiance. So there's always a silver lining.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like your fiance is extremely supportive and encouraging for you.
Yep, absolutely. She also grew up in a very alcoholic household, and she doesn't touch a damn thing. Like, naturally, it's kind of the other side of the mirror. It's wild how other people can live like that.
Yeah, that's refreshing, honestly. When I meet people like that, I'm kind of like, how did you do it? I mean, I envy them, but I want what they have too.
Exactly that. But now you do, except
you do. Exactly.
so you have a bit of a checkered past. That's okay. I can live with a checkered past. It's a more marbling future.
Well, now that you are focused on the future and not dwelling on the past, what are some things you're looking forward to? Do you have your goals set and what's your plan?
Well, we should be getting married in a couple years from now. We'll have a house within 3 and a kid within 4. That's the plan.
Wow, you got a good plan. And you know what? The best thing is you can do it sober and clear-headed and with the right conscience.
Exactly that. And the right people. Wildly important.
Extremely important to surround yourself with the right people. So I'm assuming it wasn't difficult making amends with anybody. You didn't have to do too much of that this time around, since quitting this time, you weren't on a bender and everything. All your relationships are doing pretty well at the moment.
Everything, I would say, is 100% better.
Since it's 100% better, I really want to inspire listeners who have been struggling and are considering quitting or want to be motivated to quit. What advice would you give them regarding your experience and where you are today?
Don't try to do it alone. You're going to need a support network. It's unfortunate reality, but don't try to do it alone. Go to your urgent care, go to somebody, tell them exactly what your plan is, but first have a plan. Have a plan, write it down. I put mine on a calendar, and when I was doing the tapering strategy, I was going to do it alone, but after day 2, I was like, screw this, I'm going to urgent care right now. This ends today. That was my final thought, and anybody, I believe, has it in them to change, provided they are willing to.
And do it the safest way possible, which you did.
Absolutely.
Do you have any suggestions on how some practices you have today that you do for healthy living to keep your mind off of drinking and to move on and to move forward?
I've got several hobbies. I started a garden a few months ago that I've been primarily focused on. I started getting out more, hiking and such. I buried myself in my work, and I am 100% present for my fiance and anybody else who wants to talk to me.
That's one of my favorite parts about sobriety, is being present for people. Yeah,
Not having to think about it, like, I need to go drink right now. Like,
and remembering things.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, remembering everything, being reliable, being, on time. People can call you and you can have a conversation rather than saying, "Oh, I gotta go," because you're looking forward to your next drink.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I don't have to drown myself in all this fucking booze now.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying sobriety already. I mean, it's early on, and it sounds like you have the right mindset. Is there any other advice or opinion you'd like to give on what it takes to quit and how you're doing it?
I don't think I'd ever give advice to people. They can continue to read my posts on Reddit if they so. I'm Plus Owl. You'll find me pretty quick. I just take it day by day. From here on out, that's all I can do.
So you're pretty outspoken on Reddit. What are the kind of things you discuss and like your posts and all that? What are you trying to just get engagement with other people that are in recovery?
Yeah, I'm sharing my story piece by piece, kind of like what I'm doing right now, but in more of a pattern format. I post every single day. I get a lot of people who DM me who are also in the same boat. They're trying to do the taper thing. They're quitting one or the other. I've had people who are quitting smoking who are talking to me. It wasn't my main goal, but apparently some people have said I'm an inspiration to them, and that actually feels good in a way because all I'm trying to do is live like humans, right? So like it's different.
Exactly. No, you really are an inspiration, honestly. That's why I reached out to you because, and I haven't done a lot of reaching out. A lot of people have been reaching out to me to be on the show, but when I come across something that really intrigues me, I'm like, okay, I want to talk to this guy because it sounds like he really wants to quit for good, and I want to know what went through his head to make him want to do that.
Well, I do appreciate it. I had to watch a couple of the episodes from combat to sobriety, I think was one of them.
Oh yeah, that was one of my first interviews. What do you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. I think you guys are off to a good start, and I hope you get a couple more likes, what have you, for my story as well. I think getting more word out on this topic is a good idea just for many others out there who may be struggling.
Thank you. Is there anything about drinking that you think you'd ever miss?
The one thing that I would like to have back was when I was drinking, nobody would question me if I were to go out. So there is a little bit of restriction on my own freedoms now because I have to remain sober because I know I have this problem. But that ability to just go to a liquor store and have that sort of freedom may be a little bit off, but I know in my logical brain it's for the greater good. And the ability just to completely forget a week. Honestly, yeah. I think everybody would like that, but maybe not without the alcohol.
Do you believe in like emotional relapse where you're premeditating drinking again, but you haven't taken a drink yet? Do you consider that an emotional relapse? Do you believe in that?
I have never heard of that term.
I guess to ask the question more directly, when you were trying to quit and before you had taken a drink again, did you plan it out and push it off for a while, but keep planning on, I'm going to take that drink, it's just a matter of when?
In 20 minutes. If that's what you're talking about, that's yes. Okay, yeah. Because I would definitely crack open a beer or I'd pour a shot or something, and I'd say in 20 minutes I can have that.
The last time I relapsed before my last bender, and which is the last time I drank, I planned it out for 3 weeks because I had been 3 months sober. And for 3 weeks, I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. I just don't know when. And I pushed it off for 3 weeks, gave in, and I was back to hell like a week later, basically. So,
gotcha.
Yes. What's the truth about addiction that most people don't want to hear?
It's a legitimate physical reaction.
Not a choice, a physical
Not
reaction.
A choice.
Do you look at it as a learning experience?
You have to. The other option is to dwell in it. I think I saw a quote, I forget exactly who, but I may be done with the past, but the past isn't done with me. But that's going to be true for everybody for the rest of their lives. So why should I dwell on it?
I love that quote. Exactly. I mean, if we spend all our time just beating ourselves up and, trying to redo the past, I mean, you can't rewrite the past, but you can definitely like fix what you do now and tomorrow.
Exactly. Like, yeah, sure, people are going to remember you for what you did, but what they're going to remember the most, they'll remember the last thing you did. You may be done with the past, but the past isn't done with you.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.